You're rolling.
Rolling.
Okay. If you could first tell me your name and your full name and what you play for Maldita Vecindad.
Okay, my name is Rolando Ortega, but I think nobody knows me with that name. We use since we started the group, we used to have our nicknames. You know, in my nickname is Roco, R-O-C-O. That's the everybody knows me with that name, and I'm the singer of the band.
You're the singer of the band.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Rocco, tell me about Maldita Vecindad, and if you could describe its sound first of all. How you would describe under the terms of rock what sound Maldita Vecindad has?
Okay, the music of Maldita Vecindad y Los Hijos del Quinto Patio, that is the complete name, a very long name, it's based in the collective work. All the music, the lyrics, and everything we do in our group is a collective work. I think that's why all our music have so different influence coming together in each song. And it's very specific at that because many sometimes the people ask us all the time, what kind of music you make? And it's really funny because each member of the band have different kind of influence. And all our way to compose, when we compose our music, we compose it making jamming, improvisation, you know. We jamming together, we start playing, and then every musician have different influence at that moment, you know. For example, I was listening to some Perez Prado music, and I like it too, James Brown, and I start to make it that kind of sounds. The guitar player is into the sones jarochos or sones veracruzanos, and he like it to the sky, and he make that kind of rhythm use of the guitar. The drummer like it more the jazzy thing, and everybody have different influence when we compose. That's why our music is a really strong fusion music. We can call it fusion music or modern contemporary Mexican music. We like it to talk, but well, in another way, more making like little jokes about the styles because the only people who want to put it names to the music is the industry. You know, they like it to put blues or funky because then they can sell it. They can put it in a way in the store. You know, you can find it's easy to sell for that people. But the music they really don't have names, you know, don't have really. It's not pure. Have a fusion of many styles. All the styles that everybody knows now is a product of fusion of different kinds of music, and we make words games with that. You know, we invented, for example, the cumbia punk or the funk montuno or the chachamambo, no? Or the all that kind of games. But our music, I think, is part of the old tradition in the popular culture in Mexico, of the 500 years of mestizaje, you know, 500 years of mix of different cultures. In our country, 500 years ago, was a very strong civilization, all Indian civilization, that keep life in our country until now in a very different ways. You know, exists until now many different Indian traditions in Mexico, many different language, many different uh, communities of different cultures, and that's very strong, and that reflects very strong in the music. Then the Spanish arrived to Mexico with many influence of the Arabic culture too. That's why in the popular music of Mexico, for example, the sones veracruzanos, is a very strong Arabic influence in the way of singing and all that. In other part, we have all the presence of the black culture, you know, the African culture in the Caribbean in Mexico, and that's why many of the danceable music in Mexico is a very strong African influence with the cumbia, the mambo, the son, all that. That's why in Mexico, all the music that now everybody looks like very traditional from Mexico is a product of a fusion of different styles. And that's why we like to say that our music is absolute roots Mexican music, but contemporary with our contemporary influence now. But it's the same idea of
Excuse
that.
me. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Excuse me one moment, please. Okay, now Ed, you were saying before that yeah, the industry sometimes labels a style just for their purpose of just putting a label and sectioning of the music. So why would the industry call your music Latin rock?
I think the industry call all this big and diverse movement of contemporary music in Latin America, Latin rock, because it's the more the more close idea that they have, the rock music. I think in all the Latin American music that is making now in all these different countries, the rock music is one of the influence that started. That's the case, for example, of Maldita Vecindad. In our case, rock music is one of our many different influences that we put together in our music. But I think it's why the industry call all this movement Latin rock. I think the movement start growing up and start really having their own identity. Because, for example, in Mexico in the 70s, there are many bands that still copy, absolute copy the styles of rock music, you know. Even they sung in English, you know, they have names in English and all that. And they make blues or heavy metal or punk, but absolute stereotype, you know, the way they dress, the kind of lyrics, the attitude is absolute a copy. But then many other musicians start to make their own point of view in the music and taking some elements of rock music, but with their own roots. And I think now that's the most important movement in Latin America. And I think for the industry in the United States, it's more easy to call Latin rock. But it's great to take a look that really each group have a very different kind of music. And that's good because even in Mexico, there are many different styles of music, of contemporary music. For example, Maldita Vecindad is part of all this movement. We started playing 13 years ago in 1985. And we are part of all this new breed of Mexican bands that they are making fusion music with their own cultural roots and with elements of rock. In Maldita Vecindad example, we make fusion with reggae, with ska, with African music, contemporary African music like Yosun Adur, Salif Keita, all that great musicians. We like too much the Rai music movement from Argelia, people like Chep Kalev, Chava Sowana. We like it to all the funky stuff, James Brown, you know? And we have many different influences, and even from Latin America, different kinds of styles of music.
And now, many of other music acts that there are that you were talking about, you know, that they're in Mexico or South America, but many of them stay in their country. Yet Maldita Vecindad is crossing into this country a lot and trying to get on the airwaves or in the record stores. What is there in this country, or what has been the push that your band has? What is there in this country, in the music listener, that Maldita is reaching out for?
Yeah, well, in Maldita Vecindad, we start coming to make our concerts here in the United States since 1991. That was our first time that we came to the United States to play. And I think the thing that for Maldita was very interesting to came here to the United States to show our work was all the very strong Chicano culture that exists here in the United States. You know, all this culture of people with parents from Mexico, but they born here in the United States and they make all their life here. We like it too much because it's a very strong cultural movement that is like a bridge between the American Anglo society and all the Latin and Mexican people that lives here in the United States. That's why we came for first time in 1991. We was invited for the Cinco de Mayo festival in San Francisco, you know, and we played there. And since that moment, we keep having contact with many cultural associations here in the United States, and we keep coming to make concerts, for example, to LA, to Chicago, to New York, and even we start having some relation with musicians here from the United States. For example, we met in that time in 1991, Perry Farrell, the singer of Jane's Addiction. We make some concerts with him. He go down to Mexico to play with us, and then we play one concert with them in LA. And I think the specific example of Maldita Vecindad here in the United States is a very strong tradition of people of Mexican culture. If you look at the history, the half of this country was Mexican territory, and there are many people that are absolutely connected to this land, you know. And in other way, I think all this big population of Latin and Mexican people, they are looking for some cultural expression that can be like a mirror of themselves, you know, that music and art, that they can really feel part of that, you know. And that's why for us, since the beginning, was really important to came here to the United States to show our music. And in the other way, I think all the people from Latin America is so the same situation. The United States now is a very multicultural country. All the big cities have presence of many different communities from all the world, and I think all that communities needs art and culture, because culture is the best way to know each other, and that is a very important thing that all the problems that now are very strong about racism and xenophobia and all that discrimination about the people of different cultures. I think it's very important in that situation, the culture and the music specifically for the Latin people, because Mexican people, we, in our roots, we need to celebrate together, to come together and dance and enjoy music and sweat and use the body. That's a very a strong necessity in our culture. And that's why for us it was amazing since the beginning, the reaction of the people in our concerts, you know, that everybody's dancing and chanting, and they came with many symbols that throw into the stage, like flags, you know, or like image of the Virgen de Guadalupe, that is the most beautiful and important sacred image in Mexico, is the dark-skinned Virgin. And all that kind of symbols, and it's very important for us. And that's why I think now in all the United States, all this cultural movement, because it's not only music or rock music, it's literature, it's poetry, it's graffiti, it's muralism, it's magazines, you know, underground magazines. It's many different aspects of the culture that start to have attention for the media and the industry, because all that information, I think, is great. That culture is the very thing we can share with others, you know. And I think that's why in Maldita, since the beginning, we start coming and showing our work here.
How do you see the future of the Latin rock market in this country?
Well, I think now the future of Latin rock market, like you told me, is more in a strong relation of the daily life of the communities. I think if the daily life of the communities start to having more space for express themselves, more space of respect, of spaces for the people can really come together, you know. I think in that way, all the artistic forms and all the culture that these different communities have start to having more presence in the media. And I think is that why that's the point, because now it's so important and have so many presence in different levels. For example, the rock in Spanish movement. No? I think too that in some way the old categories of music start to coming down, like the wall in Berlin, you know, like that wall that separates two different worlds coming down, and nobody believed that. I think now there are many things that is coming down in the daily life of the people, and I think in that way all these separations only in the market idea of the music start to coming down. I like it too much, for example, listen people from all over the world singing in their own language, because only singing English and all this industry in all the world only in English is a very homogenic thing, you know. It's like try to make everybody the same, and we are not the same. Everybody have their own thing to say, and that's the beautiful of this world, a world with different colors, with different language, with different flavors, with different ways to think, and I think now in the music that's very strong. I like it to take a look in Billboard or in all that magazines, especially the magazines about music, and look around and look people singing in Spanish, in Arabic, in French, in many other language. having some impact in the media here in the United States. And I think the future is like the future of humanity. I think now there are two very strong points of view that are fighting. One point of view is a monocultural point of view, only one color, only one idea, one way to live, only money like the central point of the life. And another way is many colors, multicultural ideas. It's not the money the center of the life. There are many other centers like spirituality, like community life, like party, you know, celebration, for example. There are many other points of view, many colors, many language. And I think that two points that are fighting now is so stupid that keep fighting, you know. I think now it's evident that we need a war with more justice, with more communication, human communication. And I think the future of the culture, it could be in the moment when the multicultural point of view can really be more common, more like common sense in everybody. Because that's the way life is, you know. Life is not homogeneous, it's diverse.
Good. Last question. This Rock Invasion tour is a first of its kind.
Yeah.
It's a national tour around this country, and how have you noticed the new appeal or the appeal and the market or the want for this, and is this something that will continue, or is this a start of really a very strong, consistent presence of good, solid Latin rock acts?
Well, I think the Rock Invasion project is a very good project. We like it. When we was invited to participate in this project, we like it because we take a look to the bands that is playing with us. And for example, Aterciopelados from Colombia, Fabulosos Cadillacs from Argentina, from Spain, La Unión. We like it because it's like a very good. They show the different and the diversity of all the music that is making the people now in Latin America or in Spain even. And I think now Rock Invasion is like the consequence of the work of many people since the, for example, we came here to the United States in 1991, like I told you. And I think now is the consequence of many different tours and the work of many people that is keeping working and showing their music here in the United States. And is the consequence of the local movements that keep growing and now are really strong. Local movements like, for example, in LA, in San Diego, in Chicago, in New York, in San Francisco. And I think now it's important, Rock Invasion, because it's like a bridge between the two publics or the two people that is working in the Latin rock movement. It's a bridge because it's people. The promoters are from the American classic rock tours and all that, but the music is from the other side. And I think that's good because it's like a good bridge for can put together people of different countries and different nationalities in all Latin America that live here in the United States. I think now is a good point of conclusion of the work of many people, and I think that this Rock Invasion tour can show to many people, not the people in the street, but more in the people in the media and more the people in the industry, that this movement is really strong, and these kind of ideas and bridge between cultures are not only possible but necessary. And I think it's a very good project. We are really glad to participate in this project, and I think this project can open many doors or many heads for people that work in the industry and in the media to say, hey, okay, let's go try it and keep making this kind of concept, because in the other side in Mexico and in all Latin America, we have this bridge project all the time, you know. In Mexico, in Latin America, we have many information of the American culture. We have many informations in the media. We have many concerts. All the rock bands from the United States go to play there, play in Latin America. And it's great for make a conversation. The two people that make a conversation can talk and can listen. And I think we are listening too much about American culture, and that's good. but now it's time that American culture keep quiet a little and start listen the things that all the world have to say, because then it's like a friend. You talk with a friend. You don't only say what you want. You listen him too, and that's the point, the central point now. I think Rock Invasion is a good bridge for start a more equal and more friendship and communication.